Hello, welcome. I'm Tom Blackman, your Stitch drummer, and today, welcome to episode number 1. Yes. Oh, yeah. So, what should we talk about on this first episode? It should be in the title. Oh, yeah. We're going to be talking about my experience with Butch Miles. Yeah, so, you don't know me. How I got my start was, starting out with music was over at San Jacinto Community College. I went over there for 3 years, and I studied classically. And during my last year over there, trying to figure out what school to go to, I decided to figure out what school did I actually want to go to. And I decided, well, I want to do something in jazz because that's where all the technique is. It's going to make me a very valuable player to have jazz experience and be like a jazz drummer, because not a lot of people have that jazz experience, and most of the time when you see those people who have jazz experience, those are like the top call people. They have knowledge, like for instance like Rush and all that. He didn't go to jazz school or anything, but he has a lot of jazz experience. That's why he's one of the many great drummers that ever lived, because he was able to implement big band, I call it big band theory, to where he's able to implement all the big band figures into rock music. So to be able to have that jazz knowledge is really, really important. So when I was focusing on my transfer, it was between two schools, the final schools. One was UNT, where I could have, well, not with Ed Self. Ed Self, this was during the time of his retirement. So I wasn't sure if he was still teaching during his retirement, but it's possible. But I could have studied over at UNT. I actually had a full ride over there, but that didn't really happen. I didn't get into the school because of me just transferring. They were not very transfer friendly, especially in the music department. They are very, very strict on transfer students. It's like Rice University, but Rice is even worse. But that's the good thing that I didn't get into that school. I'm like crying my eyes out. And then I tried Texas State, and I was like, oh, wow, this is such a beautiful campus. Wow. And when I did an audition for both classical and jazz, and funny enough with the classical, they were saying, like, so are you in for the classical or jazz? Because we see you signed up for both. And so funny story, I didn't get into the classical because they knew I wanted to do jazz because of Butch Miles. But I got accepted into the jazz thing. The audition process was really not that hard in my opinion. They just wanted to see me sight read. They just wanted to see me play a couple styles. And that was pretty much it for the audition. And I was a student over there for 2.5 years. I studied under Butch for 2.5 years, and no one else. Oh, excuse me. So let me talk about who Butch Miles is. Who is Butch Miles to y'all? Well, if you look up Butch Miles, you will see that Butch Miles has played with Tony Bennett. He's played with Count Basie. I think he's played with Willie Nelson too. He's played with Dave Brubeck. He's played with countless people. And he plays in like a lot of the jazz parties or jazz festivals. Example, probably Newport Jazz Festival, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but look that up. Look up Butch Miles. But he is like one of the legendary drummers. He's one of those pieces of history that we should really look up to. Now, I kind of feel like he doesn't have too much credit in the drumming world. Like drummers really don't think too much of Butch Miles and all that. He played with Count Basie. I kind of feel like he didn't have too much exposure. He was famous. He was one of those famous drummers, but nowadays we don't hear too much about Butch Miles and his experience with Count Basie bands. And he made a big contribution, really big contribution to the Basie band. But that's a little bit about Butch. He was one of those monster players. He was really a really great player. So during my time, so before my first lesson, I was thinking, oh no, it's going to be like Ed Soph, with his students or something like that, or just expecting the worst. Um, and so when it came to my first lesson, it was like, oh, Todd? It was like, yeah. And so it was like, come on in, get warmed up and all that. So got warmed up, and it's pretty much on our first lesson. We didn't do anything. He just talked about the syllabus, just writing two papers. Wait, was it two? No, it's probably one major paper, which is basically the paper was about a drummer and understanding this the way he plays and what albums he played, what kind of elements did he use in his playing. Um, and then we went over a couple books, and pretty much that was my first lesson. It wasn't really that bad, and over time, I was thinking like I was going to be like one of my past teachers that had, and it was like a big fat no. No, it wasn't. He is the most. When you see his profile pictures and all that, like on the internet, on Wikipedia, he has a smile on his face. That is not an act. Like, he is like pure joy to hang out with. He is like such a great fella, to hang out with, because he's got stories. He's got some really interesting stories during his jazz days, and still to this day, jazz days. He's still alive, and very grateful to be in his presence and all that. So this was in San Marcos when I was in Texas State studying under him. So as lessons went by, he helped me out with hand speed. He helped me out with like a little bit of technique. The first book that we went over, surprisingly enough, was not John Riley. We went over John Riley a little bit, which I actually met John Riley over at Texas State, and he knew Butch Miles. And excuse me. So, but Butch, we went over a book. It was Rhythmic Patterns by Joe Casades, I think I recall correctly. And so that was one of his major teachings, is that book. That book, which was, I think it really helped out with getting around the kits more fluently and be able to do these like rhythmic figures. We pretty much focused on that. We focused on the John Riley book. We focused on Rick Latham, just some jazz, like focus, like jazz element stuff. Now, he teaches two different ways. He teaches for the audio engineers and slash classical, and he teaches the jazz folks. So those are two different sides he teaches. So I sometimes remind him that I am a jazz guy because of it's like I'm a new student to him, and so I always remind him a little bit. And then after a semester, it's like, oh, hey, welcome back, Todd, and all that. Everyone knows each other. Everyone's situated with the lessons. So we went over Joe Casades' rhythmic patterns. We went over what was it? A jazz cookbook. It was a jazz cookbook book, which had all these figures of. It's like if you already did John Riley's Art of Bob Drumming, this would be like the next book you should do, and then after that you should do Beyond Bob Drumming, which we actually did too. So we focused on certain things in those books, and we really focused on, I call it rhythmic articulation, to where you really focus on the placement of the notes. Like instead of like and all that, it's like triplets, really focusing on the jazz triplet. Now, to me, and still to this day, even though after I studied with Butch, to me, the jazz triplet it's not a thing nowadays. Like, there's so many different interpretations of a jazz triplet, with the jazz triplet feel to be more politically correct, musically correct, if you may ask me in my musical opinion. The jazz triplet is not entirely in triplets. Now, at the start, it feels like it's in triplet feel because that's the way we can notate it. That's the way we analyze it. But different drummers have different feels. Like sometimes the jazz triplet is actually 16th notes. Sometimes it's groups of 5. Sometimes it's right between the triplet and the 16th notes. It's right between, and it's just feel. Like jazz is actually all between the feels, and that's what's one of the teachers over at Texas State taught me, and mentioned it to Butch too, and he thought the same way too. Because there's different feels from different drummers. Like Elvin Jones has a totally different feel than Tony Williams. And fun fact, Tony Williams is more like a duple guy, like focusing on like for example, eighth notes, like da 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 da, like pretty much that. He doesn't do a lot of triplet stuff like Elvin Jones. It's like do 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 do, type of that stuff with Elvin Jones. But during my time with Butch, we wrote about papers about drummers. I have papers about Elvin Jones, Philly Joe Jones, Max Roach, and let's see, that was 1, 2, 3. I should have 2 more papers that I wrote for him. So I pretty much wrote papers, and the reason why he encouraged that was for me to, on my own personal time, to really dissect drummers and me to be able to independently learn on my own. And so that's what he really taught when I was over there. He really focused on me being a independent musician, for me to musically think as a musician, musically independent. And that's helped me out a lot. That's what he's really helped me. And he always encouraged me to do my own exercises. Like I have my own exercises for hand speed. And it's really helped. Oh my gosh, helped me out a lot. And it's just surprises me, like an exercise I made has helped me out a lot. And it's just basically like rhythmic figures, playing rhythmic figures, but it's where you place your hands and feet and what you do with it. But over time with Butch Miles, we did the papers, we did the books, we went to concerts and all that, but it was the master classes that really helped me when I was with Butch Miles and all that. So he went to these over at Texas State. We had several master classes. We had the Eddie Gomez trio, which actually featured a drummer from a graduate from UNT, actually studied under Ed Soph. There was Eddie Gomez. There was John Riley. There was. I was very surprised about this one. Josue Aponte. He's a jazz guy, but that was under the Latin department, and I was very surprised because he runs the jazz Latin band over at UNT. So I was very surprised about that. But I went to his masterclass anyway because I met him before and he actually remembered me, and I was like, "Wow, you remember me!" But so all these masterclasses helped me out a lot, especially John Riley too. And Butch was there too. So John Riley commented on Butch Miles, saying like he's like a really Texas State is very fortunate to have you and all that. And so something like along those lines. But Butch Miles, he was one of those really great figures to be in his presence and all that. He really had a smile on his face all the time. He's always happy to be working, but happy to be alive and all that too. And I'm trying to think of what other things I could mention about Butch, because pretty much it really wasn't too much. Oh, okay, I know what I could talk about. So when I was with Butch and all that, it's really great. This is my thing about teachers. Teachers are not just those people that you just go to a lesson and then you practice, come back to the lesson, practice, go back to the lesson, practice. To me, if you have a teacher, you go to their concerts, you actually see them play. That's where you're going to learn the most out of your teacher, and that's what I did. Whenever I knew Butch was playing, I tried to take every opportunity to watch him play, because He's a historical drum figure in America and just in the world and all. And he's a Zildjian artist. He got the Zildjian Awards, and I've seen it. It's nice. But I actually got to see my drum teacher play, and I got some footage. I got footage on my Instagram, so like very down on my Instagram, and you can see some footage of him playing. But I wish when I was over at Texas State, my microphone on my phone wasn't working, so I was unable to videotape and record my drum teacher play with the Count Basie Big Band. Yes, the Count Basie Big Band actually was doing like a little bit of tour. They were recording a little bit, getting ready for their Grammys type of stuff. Try to get nominated for a Grammy for Best Big Band. And they came to Texas State, and it was a full house. And I was very surprised when they talked about. Here's the thing: Basie Big Band has been known for huge dynamic contrast from like going very soft and then boom and all that type of stuff. So I apologize if I ear raped you. I apologize. So I got to see Butch Miles play for the Count Basie Big Band, and oh my God, you had to be there. Oh my God, you had to be there. Okay. Oh my God. So it was just very magical just to see him play Count Basie stuff and actually like be there with. Now some of the people in the Count Basie band are not the official, but it's pretty close, and they really know their stuff. They really know how to feel the music and how to play very quietly. And I won't do that again to y'all. Just seeing Butch play for the Count Basie Big Band and actually understand how to perform with huge contrast, and that just makes you a very valuable player in general. Like if you can be able to play super quietly on the drums and then just have a huge control with the dynamic contrast, that's one of the greatest things I've ever learned from Butch, to be honest. That's one of the greatest things I've ever learned was huge dynamic contrast. And that's actually, to this day, that's actually making me one of the most valuable players here in Houston. I'm able to do that huge contrast. I'm able to wear that I could play, and I really don't. I always encourage to wear I'm not gonna say ear pods, but headphones. I'm just gonna say headphones or in-ear earphones or something like that. I always encourage that, but I'm able to play to where that if I play quietly and I wearing headphones, like I can't hear myself at all. But when I take it off, I'm like, oh, I could barely hear myself. So that really does make you a very valuable player. And I just feel like that. Like I had a great time studying at Butch. I wish I studied under him with more, but I kind of feel like I got what I needed. But I got my bachelor's degree in jazz studies. I learned a great deal over there. Got to see a lot of great people over at Texas State University in San Marcos. And just the crowd, too. The overall crowd over there, like just getting synced into modern jazz. Like, just the students over there were, like pretty awesome, too. But I think that's pretty much it with Butch. We really didn't do too much. We didn't do a lot of stuff. We only went through several books. We did a transcription. We did one transcription per lesson, but it depends on what year you are. So if you're a freshman, it's just one transcript. Sophomore, same thing. And then when you're a junior and senior, you get to do 2 transcriptions, but on my last semester, I didn't do that for some reason. He didn't count me for that. He made an A for that for some reason. But we really focused on the papers, focused on transcriptions, books, and any questions I had about certain topics. So that really helped me. It was pretty much San Marcos was an open book type of thing to where that if you ask a question, it's like, hey, it's your lesson. If you got a question, fine by me. I'll help you find an answer. And all the teachers are pretty much like that, including Butch. So I learned a great deal from all the teachers over there, not just Butch, but everyone else over there. Everyone else was a really great musician and a really great teacher, and to be able to pass that not they were able to pass their knowledge to me and able to help me out become the best musician I am currently right now. Now I'm still studying. I'm trying to. Right now I'm working. I'm teaching, and right now I'm just trying to get some money for like just expenses, and I'm going find another private lesson teacher. I'm thinking of going to this guy who's actually from Sweden. He actually studied under a conservatory, so I'm thinking of picking his brain a little bit. Try to see what to do with my drumming and all that, because I feel like something's missing, but I definitely know it's just me really listening and focusing on myself. So, but anyway, I think that was like a little bit of a conclusion since, because that's pretty much what I've done with Butch. There's really not too much that we did, but sometimes the smallest things is the greatest impact, and that's pretty much what all I needed is just watching my drum teacher. So watch your drum teachers and don't be lazy. All right, so I'm Todd Blackman, your essential drummer, and thank you for tuning in. You have a great day.